It wasn't the silence of the municipal archives that bothered me. Silence is just the absence of noise. No, what bothered me was the weight of the air down here. 4 stories underground, surrounded by millions of forgotten documents and artifacts, the air felt thick, like it was waiting for something. I shone my flashlight on the heavy iron door marked 7B. The shift supervisor, a nervous man whose eyes never stopped moving, had told me explicitly, "Clean the halls, dust the statues in the rotunda, but never ever unlock Section 7B after midnight." I checked my watch. It was 12:05 a.m. And from the other side of that iron door, I heard the distinct sound of pages turning. I needed this job. The pay was absurd for a night watchman position, and they didn't ask questions about my past. My only company was the echo of my own boots on the cold marble floors and the towering shelves of the main rotunda, stretching up into the gloom like the skeletal ribs of some dead leviathan. My job was simple: patrol the perimeter, ensure no water leaks were threatening the collection, and log out at 6 a.m. For the first 2 weeks, it was fine. Boring. But then I started finding things out of place. A bust of the city's founder in the East Wing. Every night I'd dust it, and every morning it would be turned 5 degrees to the left, facing the entrance to the deeper archives. Then there were the smells. You'd expect dust and mildew, but sometimes near the older sections, the air smelled faintly of ozone and something copper, like dried blood. Tonight, the smell was stronger than ever. It led me away from my usual route, down Corridor 4, towards the restricted sections, towards the sound of pages turning where no one should be. I stood outside door 7B for a long time. The turning pages had stopped. Now there was just a low vibration in the floor, almost too low to hear. I told myself it was rats, or the subway rumbling miles away, but the key was already in my hand. The supervisor had given me the master ring, swearing up and down that the key for 7B wasn't on it. He was lying. The lock turned with a groan that echoed down the empty corridor like a scream. I pushed the door open. Section 7B wasn't like the rest of the archives. There were no towering shelves of cardboard boxes. It looked like a twisted museum exhibit that had been sealed for a century. The air was freezing. My breath plumed in the flashlight beam. The room was filled with glass display cases arranged in a chaotic maze. And inside the cases were things that didn't belong in a city archive. I walked past a case holding a blackened leather mask with 7 eye holes. Another case held a book bound in something pale and smooth that definitely wasn't cowhide. And then, in the center of the maze, I saw the desk. It was a magnificent mahogany desk, untouched by the dust that coated everything else. Sitting open on the desk was an enormous ledger, its pages yellowed with age. Next to it, a quill pen stood perfectly upright in a dried inkwell. I approached it slowly. The vibration in the floor was stronger here. It felt like standing on top of a sleeping generator. I looked down at the open page of the ledger. It was a catalog. The handwriting was spidery and elegant. It listed items and dates of acquisition going back 200 years. Item 89, the mirror that shows only the past, acquired 1842. Item 214, the calcified heart of the final resident of Blackwood Manor, acquired 1901. My eyes drifted to the bottom of the page. The ink there wasn't dry and faded like the rest. It was wet, glistening in my flashlight beam. It had just been written. I read the entry. Item 665, Elias Vance, Night Watchman, acquired. The date was blank. I stumbled back, dropping my flashlight. It rolled across the stone floor, the beam swinging wildly, making the shadows of the display cases lurch and twist around me. I scrambled for the door, but it had swung shut. There was no handle on the inside. Then the sound returned. Scritch, scritch, scritch. It came from the desk. The quill pen was moving on its own, hovering over the ledger, waiting to finish the entry. I looked at my wrist. My digital watch flickered. The numbers changed from 3:13 a.m. to 3:14 a.m. The vibration became a roar. Every glass case in the room began to rattle violently. The dust of a century shook loose, filling the air like gray snow. In the flashing light of my rolling flashlight, I saw them. The mask with 7 eyes was pressing against the glass of its case. The pale book was fluttering open, its pages teeth-like. And behind the desk, the shadows were coalescing. They weren't just emptiness anymore. They were gathering into a shape. A tall, thin shape wearing what looked like an archaic suit. The shape, the Curator, didn't have a face. Just a smooth expanse of shifting gray slate where features should be. It reached out a hand made of smoke and old paper and gently took hold of the hovering quill pen. "Do not struggle, Elias," a voice whispered. It didn't come from the figure. It came from everywhere. It came from the artifacts in the cases. 1,000 voices layering over each other. "We have been waiting for a new edition. The collection must grow." I tried to scream, but the air in my lungs turned to dust. The smell of copper and ozone was overpowering. I watched, paralyzed, as the Curator dipped the pen into the dry inkwell, which suddenly welled up with thick, black liquid. It began to write the date next to my name. As the pen scratched across the paper, the cold from the room moved into my veins. My feet felt heavy, rooted to the spot. I looked down. The gray marble of the archive floor was creeping up my boots, up my shins, turning flesh into cold stone. I wasn't being killed. I realized with a final, horrific burst of clarity that I was being archived. The pen stopped moving. The Curator looked up from the ledger with its faceless head. The last thing I heard before the marble reached my ears was the sound of the door unlocking, ready for the next shift to begin.